Hello guys, welcome to this video. In today's Wolfkiff Workshop video we are going to be looking at lifting my Mitsubishi Shogun Sport, which is also known as the Montero and also the Pajero Sport as well. So yeah, in this I'm going to be showing you how to adjust the front torsion bar and also how to fit the rear springs. Unfortunately I think you might have to bear with me in this video because I've never done this before, and also trying to find information on this truck online is like banging your head against a brick wall sometimes, unless you're a member of the owners club or something like that. So it's yeah, not the easiest job in the world, but yeah, join me on this job. Hopefully it'll help a few of you out. If you've got any comments or questions afterwards, by all means leave them in the comment box below. Also, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe for us, just to let us know if you do enjoy the video. But thanks guys, and keep watching this video. New car parts day. Let's see what these look like then. They look a lot smaller. I'm well happy with them. They are proper heavy duty. I'm using pushing down on them. Good thing. A little bit soft. Apparently these are 20% more heavy duty than the standard springs you get on a normal Shogun. But I will pop the link in the video for these because these actually came off eBay. But for Shogun Sport, lift kits are very expensive, but these ones are for the 4M40 or 4M4U Shogun. Like I said, I'll put the link in the description, but these should fit, and apparently they naturally raise the Sport by about 2 inches, so this should be perfect for what I need. Right guys, so as you can see, we're outside, and the Shogun is behind me, but also as you can see, the light is fading fast, so I think trying to do a lift tonight is probably a bad idea, because to be fair, I've probably got a good maybe half an hour, 20 minutes of sunlight left. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath this thing and stick some maintenance spray on the bolts that we're going to be freeing off ready for tomorrow, because apparently they can be a bit of a bitch to get off. Right, so welcome to the underside of the truck. Hoping that you can get all this. But this bar here, this is the torsion bar, which is what actually controls the front suspension. As you can see down there, it goes all the way to the front arm, and instead of conventional leaf springs, because as you can see there is no or coil springs, there is no coil springs or leaf springs on it, because this bar is tensile steel and it works off of torsion, it twists, and this is what holds it up. So this is what we're going to be adjusting, but more so what we're actually going to be adjusting is actually up there. You can see the lock nut and the threads on that on the bolt there, which actually on this model looks really good, which I'm quite pleased about. But also the adjustment nut is this one here, which I believe is 17mm. So because it's getting a bit late tonight, even though to be honest looking at it I probably could adjust that quite nice and easily, but yeah, because it's getting a bit late tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some up here on that bolt there. So what we're going to do is put that straight on the threads, let that soak in overnight, and then hopefully by tomorrow that'll crack off beautifully. There we are. And I'll do the same the other side. Yeah, the torsion bar on these Shogun Sports are pretty much in line with the back of the front seats. So as you go under, you can see it's there, sort of thing, which is pretty much smack bang in the middle between the front and back door, really. I might have to wait until tomorrow before I can lift this truck. That doesn't mean you guys have to at home, because thanks to the magic of video, and here we are, and the next day. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is head underneath the truck just to refresh my memory, because I think the best bet is to start off on the back springs, because there's no real adjustment there or anything like that. So there's the spring there on the back axle itself. Just below that, I don't know if you can see it very well, but excuse the tripod looking away, but yeah, just below that the shock absorber is further down there. So I think the best bet is going to be to jack the Jeep up, put this back arm of the axle, support that with a trolley jack, and then try to release the shock absorbers at the bottom so that we can let the axle drop a bit to get those springs out of there. I think is the best option here. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is chock those front wheels. So normally I do have a big jack which I can usually lift this with a lot easier than my off-road one, but at the minute I've actually lent some of my tools out, so I don't have them. So if you're asking me why I'm doing it such a hodgepodge way, that is why. Yeah, welcome to back under the truck. Welcome back under the truck. I've had a bit of a change of plan because these wheels are going to be a bit in the way. I want to drop this whole back axle. So what I'm doing is using my little car jack. It's nothing spectacular, but like I say, because I'm not holding the weight of the truck on this one, I'm literally just holding the weight of this axle, because my plan is to jack this axle up a bit. I'm going to take the wheels off, and like I say, then what I'm going to try and do is undo the shock absorbers, possibly panhard bar if I really have to. So I want to drop this whole axle down, swap the springs out, jack it back up, and then that'll be that then. But this should give me a nice bit of extra room to lever it then. But at the minute I just need to jack this up enough to get the wheels off, which is about there. I don't need to be taking on the whole weight of the truck on these. So, and don't forget, there are axle stands either side on metal boards to hold this thing, so it is safe despite how it might look. Yeah, right, if I was perfectly honest, to be honest, I'd probably put my spring compressor on the spring now and then crank that up, pull it out, put the new one in. But unfortunately, like the other tools I was talking about earlier, I have actually lent them to someone else, and I thought I'd had them back, but I haven't. So I'm going to have to try and drop the axle to see if I can get enough just to get these springs out. But I'm going to try and crack this nut off with a bar first. Spanner, and this is a 24mm nut and bolt setup, by the way. No, I've got myself into a pickle here, haven't I? There we go. God. And I knocked that over, but now that's out. Yay. So we'll let me drop this axle nicely. Well, quite pleased with that. Maybe just jack it. Bar this side down a little bit, maybe. It might give me enough to move the bar under there. No. But now that is not the correct way to do it, I have to admit. And to be honest, if I had the truck up a bit taller, I'd be able to let this axle drop a bit more. So it's my fault, but I don't want to take it off of my little jack, because otherwise jacking it back up is going to be an absolute nightmare. So again, if I had better tools, this would be easier. But dropping the axle would work to get these springs off. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to do this panhand bar, pan up. There we are. Brilliant day. Right. So yeah, panhard bar down as well is the best option. You can get these springs a lot better, a lot easier. Alright, one thing I did want to show you was the actual difference in the springs between the new and the old before I go fitting them. So here they are. As you can see, the old springs are actually sit taller when they're unsprung, but the one thing I will say, if you look at the difference in the thickness of the coils, you can see these are much heavier duty, which means these are going to be a lot harder to push down than these. I mean, you can see I can push this one down by my hand really. This one I can barely do that, so it's just a lot stiffer, because these are actually fork vehicles that you want to be able to tow things like your caravan and stuff, so a lot more heavy duty. So even though they sit lower unsprung. When the vehicle waits on it, these shouldn't move nowhere near as easy as these things, but I am going to keep these as spares just in case. And also, one thing I wanted to point out as well with the springs out is the way mine were fitted is the flat was at the top, so, and these springs are the same. You got the flat at the top, and then round the bottom it's round, and the same with these ones. The bottom bit was the bit sat in the cup, and that was the round piece, and the top bit is the flat bit, so they only go one way, and you've got to try and make sure you line the bottom pigtail up with the bit on the actual axle. Try and put the spring in from the back and seat it up and then down onto this part here. So that's the spring cup, and this is where, like I say, the round part of the spring seems to seat here, and the flat part up into there. I'm going to see if I can go at this from underneath. I'm thinking it might be easier for me to bench press, or easier for me to see if I bench press this side in. So I'm going to get this one loosely in. I'm going to do the same on the other side, and I'm going to jack this back axle back up then. I'm going to put the wheels back on, panel bar back in. One thing I want to show you is what I meant by the pigtail. The end of the spring, there's actually, as you can see in this, there's actually a cutout that goes down where the spring actually sits into. So you have to make sure that lines up properly, otherwise yeah, the springs might not seat properly. It might be more prone to make the truck seem off kilter or at different ride heights. But yeah, time to jack the axle back up and see how we get on. The back is done, but I'm going to adjust the front on the torsion bar. But one thing I was going to say is, if you look under here, what I've done is just to take some pressure off the suspension, so I'm not kind of fighting against it to turn the adjustment bolt. I've put it on axle stands at the front. The wheels are still on the floor, but it means that the suspension is dropped a little bit. So, and this is kind of the height I'm aiming for, so the truck will be kind of level like this. So yeah, I'm going to go underneath and start adjusting it. Right, now for adjusting the truck, it's a very easy one. What I'm really going to need is a 17mm socket, 1/2 inch ratchet, and find it in here, a 17mm spanner. So let's get under there and get that adjusted. Right, welcome back underneath the Shogun. What I'm going to do is, this is my paint pen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where the bolt is, so I can see exactly how many, mark the bolt, see exactly how many turns I do on it. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is there's a lock nut. You can see the threaded bar here, which is part of the adjustment for this torsion bar. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to see if I can crack that lock nut off. It's had overnight to soak, which is brilliant. Right, now I'm going to move this back to the centre of where it was, because like I say, what I'm going to do is count the turns both sides to make sure I lift both sides of the right thing, the right amount, because this truck was sat level before I started. I know it was, I did the measurements, so I want to, in theory, you adjust both sides the same, it should be the same. So I believe you turn the bolt clockwise, set amount of turns, lock the lock nut back in place, and then drop her back on her own wheels and then give her a try. But yeah, let's see what we can do. Okay, I just consulted one of my guru friends, and he said the best bet is to wind this all the way in and then back off 4 turns, 4 to 5 turns. So that's what I'm going to do now. Hopefully that is enough to lift this thing. Now to the other side. There we are. Excuse my grunting. That's that nice and tight, so now the time is to get it off of the axle stand and hopefully see that she'll be sat about this height, which is, I tell you, it's so much easier to work on. Fantastic. That arch gap. I'm so happy with this. One thing I really love is this thing actually stands about as tall as I do now, which is absolutely fantastic. It also means I can't bump my head on the boot when I'm putting shopping in and out, which is one thing I did suffer with before, I have to admit. So I've just realised that I didn't do a conclusion to the first part of the video, so I just thought I would do it now. After I had raised it on this day, we decided to give it a couple of weeks so that everything could settle, which is the best thing you can do with a suspension adjustment like this, or even if you're lowering a car. So gave it a couple of weeks, and the back didn't really settle much, but the front unfortunately did. It kind of went back down a bit, so the car had a bit of a, or the Shogun had a bit of a drag car look, which wasn't what I was going for. So I decided to go back underneath it and adjust the front up again, which is where this next part of the video comes in. Here we are, welcome to the other side. Same thing again. Yeah, so it turns out I've been doing this wrong. I've been turning this nut here. With the other side, there's actually a lock nut on the top, I did realise, and then there's another adjustment nut underneath the lock nut. So as I was trying to tighten that side, I was winding it further and further down. I didn't realise it was spinning both of them at the same time. Whereas this side seems to be locking up perfect. But it turns out, because I've been adjusting the other side so much, I just checked the length of the threads. That side I've got 6.5 centimetres. Or 65 mil. This side I've got 55, so there's 10 mil difference between the sides. So what I'm going to try and do is adjust this, because it doesn't look like it's made much difference to the front. So I'm going to try and adjust this side up just as much, so we've got the same amount of bar sticking through the top. And hopefully that will make this thing level out a bit. Yeah, so I'm really glad I filmed this today. To be honest, I wasn't going to, because it was just a quick adjustment, but I'm really glad I did, because it turns out in the initial video I think I might have been doing it wrong, because it works out that basically what you've got a long bolt like this, and then you've got a 17mm lock nut on top of the very top, and underneath that seems to be what actually adjusts the height. And on my driver's side, as I was winding the bolt, the adjuster nut stayed where it was. It was perfect, it wound itself up, so it was working this side. But the other side, when I was winding it, I didn't realise that there was an actually adjuster nut there. I thought that was welded to the arm or whatever else, so I thought I was adjusting up the other side, but it turns out I wasn't. So that's one thing to look out for if you're raising your Shogun, Montero or Challenger, is have a look to see what that bit underneath the nut's doing, because what you may have to do is adjust that instead of just winding the bolt in, because I worked out that there was actually a centimetre difference between the threads that were sticking out either side, whereas now I've set them both at about 6.5 centimetres. with it protruding. It might be different for yours, but what I'm going to do now is take it down to the local car park where it's nice and level and flat, and I'm just going to measure it, have a look, see what it looks like, and measure it, because beforehand the truck, after it settled, was sort of sat like that, a bit like a drag car looking thing, where the back was sat up and the front was facing down a bit of a rake on it. But that's not what I want. I want this truck to be nice and level, so when it's taken off road, it'll distribute the weight a bit more evenly, and it'll just have that bit more ground clearance on the front and on the side as well. So I know it's not the most accurate way to measure it, but roughly the centre of the wheel there to there is about 13 inches, which is 33 centimetres or 330 millimetres, and it's the same both sides. Here's the start of the next storm, but here we are on a nice flat piece of car park. I tell you what, it's actually looking a lot more level, so before I get too wet, I'm just going to measure roughly from the centre of the wheel to the arch, about 13 inches. We measure the other side. It's definitely taller. Roughly about 13 inches. So that has worked out perfect. The truck is sat level side to side, and it looks a lot more level front to back as well. I'm quite happy with that. And looking at the front here like this, yeah, it is sat. It's not sat higher. It doesn't look to me like it's sat higher one side than the other, which is fantastic. And the whole truck itself is higher, the roof looks more level, the steps on the side are a lot more level. That's perfect, that's what I wanted. I wanted this truck to be up nice and tall. So, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. If you did, let us know by hitting a like and a subscribe underneath this video. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell just to let you know when we bring out some new videos and new content. If you've got any questions or queries, or you'd like any more technical help, then just fire it into our comments below this video and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks a lot, and keep your eyes peeled for our next video that's coming.